Hi, welcome to Real Trail Talk. I am Donovan D'Souza from The Long Ways Better.
And I'm Mark Pybus from The Life of Pi. Welcome to episode 65. We are continuing on with our Munda Biddi journey, and in studio we're lucky to have Jake from Intents Offroad. Welcome, Jake.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks for giving us a call. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So Jake has a series on YouTube through the Intents Offroad channel that you did the Munda Biddi in August last year on a $100 bike.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll get into that later, but we've got you in to talk about Jarrahdale to Dwellingup, which is a fairly short section of the track, but still a quite enjoyable one.
Yeah.
But before we get started, we might actually talk about a little amendment to last Munda Biddi episode, because we recorded it and then went for a ride on the new alignment near Mundaring Weir and Mount Gungan.
Yeah, so I think in the last episode we mentioned that they were going to close the touring route, and now they have actually closed it. And what they've done is they've rerouted the Munda Biddi, so it's a one-way trail. So heading south you go one way, and heading north you go a different way. And this is to kind of remove the ridiculously steep climbs that were there before.
There's a few hazards there as well, where you get obviously people pushing their bikes up one way, and then people come flogging it downhill. No one wants to get hurt, but
Yeah.
it's probably one reason why they might have done it.
Yeah.
Certainly that giant hill coming off the Helena River, I think you still go down it on the northern route,
Yeah.
but just trying to stop to get a look at the southern route, the little terminus there, that was quite an effort just to stop your bike. So yeah, very big hazard going down there.
And yeah, vastly better. I think it's a much more enjoyable section. Jake, I think before we recorded, you said that it was probably one of the hardest days you did of the whole track.
Oh yeah, it was just teething problems. A lot of things had gone wrong so I think my back brakes had failed. Just the cable had snapped, and my old school charger that runs off your wheel, your dynamo, was eating into my tire. And that was I was like, okay, I'll do without it. And then I realised I didn't even need it. And the thing did weigh a ton. It was pretty hefty. That's probably why it was chewing into the tyre, actually. But yeah, that hill on the other side of the valley, heading sort of southeast up that hill, is a shocker.
Because you go from, I think it's about 100 metres up to Mount Gungan, which is about 400. And it's over a fair stretch, but it's still a long hill, especially on that first day when you're fully loaded.
It's very shaly going up it. It's not great footing. Actually, that's where I enjoyed having hiking shoes to do it with, and just toe clip kind of pedals.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, you said, teething problems. That's probably what a lot of people experience. So I think that this will be a much more inviting first day for a lot of people.
Yeah, because the new route going south, it kind of switchbacks up the hill. So you can kind of pick a low gear and just kind of dawdle along, and it's nothing too strenuous. You're not going to push your bike up there. But yeah, and then certainly Mount Gungan, instead of going straight up, it then goes, I think, to the west a bit more, and then some more single trail. So really enjoyable, I thought. Yeah,
I think that that's a good improvement, and yeah, I think a lot more people will enjoy day one of the track now.
Yeah.
And I mean, they have to do diversions just to give some tracks some rest, Otherwise it ends up being like some old... I mean, you guys know of the power lines, the four-wheel drive power lines. I mean, that never gets any rest, and look at it. It's something else. It's like Kokoda out there now.
Yeah.
That's what some people really enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, win or lose. So, Jarrahdale to Dwellingup. Just one of the shorter sections that you can do.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, because I think all the other maps sort of make logical sense town to town, but this is Jarrahdale to Nanga, which doesn't make sense. So, I think it's better to think of it as Jarrahdale to Dwellingup, but it's only 2 days, which is an odd one, because most of the maps are 3 days.
We got your thoughts on Jarrahdale last episode, but Jake, what did you think of Jarrahdale coming into town for that kind of first track town experience?
Yeah, that was great. Alex and Rhiannon had driven out and then walked to the Wungong hut to resupply me. I realised you couldn't have fires, you couldn't have campfires, which coming from the Bibbulmun, I was like, okay, that's a huge change and challenge accepted. And it worked out for the better because if you got to plan in about an hour to set up a fire, especially if it's raining. So he came out to give me an extra gas bottle and take away my sort of tiny one that I had. But yeah, I didn't do too much cooking, just for dinner every night and then maybe a cup of coffee in the morning. But yeah, going into Jarrahdale was gorgeous because the sun was good. The Jarrahdale General Store does great food for great prices, as in big.
country
country prices. Yeah.
Did you stay in town?
No, not at Jarrahdale. I went straight through. But yeah, I had to stop at the general store to get some calories, and then just basically continued on the trail. And usually, stop into a place, buy a coffee or something, and then you can it's morally correct to be allowed to ask them, can I plug my charger in somewhere?
Yeah.
Otherwise, and sometimes you do, you come into a store and you're like, hey, you got a PowerPoint? And they're like, we have coffee. So look, it's nice trade. And then you can have a conversation, it's good. But then hitting the track, it goes, slightly uphill, and then you get some good downhills and you feel it through your elbows and depending on your suspension system. So I had suspension that was it was slop. It was crap. and I knew that going in. I was just, let's see how this goes. And it was crap. It was like pumping out all the grease and dust was getting in there, and there was this gravelly, greasy sludge by the end of the trip. But going down some of those pea gravel slopes got interesting. I had fixed my brakes to some extent, so I could slow down hills. But yeah, if you wanted to stop in a hurry, it just wasn't happening.
The pea gravel through there, I think leaving town is something else. It's like really bad. Some of the worst. I mean, this whole section has some of the worst pea gravel.
Yeah, we've grown up in that area with that pea gravel, always on bikes, but never with sort of 20, 30 kilos on the back. So steering was hectic. You're always adjusting your spokes. You're getting new dents in your rim all the way along. And rims, I've come to learn, are just a consumable item if you're doing any sort of mountain biking, And the best mountain bikers will also, if they're right into their downhill, they'll tell you that as well. Yeah.
Is it odd because you think like wheels or like rims on a road bike, they would be kind of a fixed thing, they last forever, but I guess on a mountain bike you're digging them up quite a bit.
Yeah, and you could spend a fortune, probably get them a bit stronger, but that's the main reason I actually bought that bike, because I had one just like it and I was going to use that, but we just smashed the rims on the hills around my place. I mean, the Byford Hills have actually now turned into like a mountain biking hub, but we were just going up and down the fire breaks before then. We hadn't actually made any tracks. We're talking 10, 20 years ago, but the pea gravel is what it is, and you get to experience that. And you've got people riding this track who come from all over the world, and I've never seen pea gravel like this, and I'd heard about it, but I didn't think it would be that bad. But it's it's an interesting experience, because you turn your wheel and it digs in instead of turning the bike, or that sort of thing. So fun times.
I mean, this first day you mentioned up and down a few hills. Get to pass the Serpentine River, which I'm guessing is a lot thicker than it is when you pass it on the bib.
Yes.
I mean, it's not the little creek that you see between Gringer.
Yeah, that's the one.
Creek.
Yeah. Actually, that was when I went past it on the Bibbulmun. I knew I was telling the people that were hiking the same trail, and I was like, we're going past the Serpy River, so that's awesome. I've never seen it so far up. And we went past this creek. I'm like, no, that's not it. It can't be it. I'm looking at the map and I'm like, well, if we're here, that can't. And there was barely any water in it. But this other side, the Munda Biddi just goes over a road bridge and then hits a dirt track, follows a dirt track up and around, and you can see sort of out the what's it called, Kitty's Gorge. Gorgeous out there, literally. But yeah, you get to the top of the hill and go through some Wandu country, and you just follow some fire trails that are really nice and a bit of swampland. You can hear some frogs that you don't hear often anywhere else.
It's a bit weird because it's like it's quite high up, but
Yeah.
yet there's a swampy area through there.
Yeah, there's lots of little plateaus where you've got almost sort of an aquatic, gorgeous swampy spots, and you've got swamp hens running through there. You'll occasionally see a fox or two and emus, and then there's a lot of land going along Scarp Road. Love Scarp Road. Not too many people know about it, which is probably a good thing, but some gorgeous properties out there as well. They've got some are doing avocados, some are doing just feral pigs. That's like all they've got in their property.
Yeah.
So Scarp Road's a bit of a kind of continuous, not theme, but like presence throughout this section, because you go on it and you cross it quite a few times going towards Dwellingup.
Yeah.
So it must be a fairly like used thoroughfare for most people.
Yeah, it's good for navigation purposes. It's to keep you on your bearings and just be crossing the same thing.
It seems very popular with dirt bike riders through this area.
Does. Yep.
And I think it's kind of, this is an area where we've talked about, on the Bibbulmun track, a lot of dirt bikes who shouldn't be there. And this is sort of an area that I think is a good place for them because it's not in a dieback risk area. And it seems like this is where a lot of the responsible sort of usership kind of go.
Yeah.
So it's good to see people, doing the right thing and enjoying this particular area.
Actually, yeah, with the motorbike riders, I mean, I was one for a long, long time. I just sold my motorbike recently, but I did enough damage to my body on those. But yeah, up through that area, they used to just ride around the hills in sort of the first hills along the Scarp in Byford and all that, and then they got built up, and the ranger just sort of keeps pushing them out with the other wildlife, because I mean, it's pretty wild. But no, they're all right. A lot of them that use Scarp Road sort of your bikers that are road registered bikes and they're trail bikes, and just sort of plod along through there, go into Dwellingup, have a pint, something like that, ride back. And then,
I found them pretty respectful, through there, not on the Munda Biddi. They're doing the right thing, so it's good to see.
Because they know it's a grey area, and it doesn't take much to get things shut down these days, So yeah, they're good. And I mean, I wave to them because they don't know that I ride motorbikes as well, or that any of these mountain bikers, we all got to respect walkers. It's like, if I can hear a motorbike coming, I'm going to get off the track straight away. I'm not going to stand there and hope that he comes around the corner and then say, hey, you should be more careful. It's if I can hear you coming, I'm going to use some common sense, But,
Yeah.
They're all pretty respectful out there in near that area.
So once we're on Scarp Road, you kind of leave it and go along Kingsbury Road. This is a section you didn't enjoy, Donovan, because it recently burnt out, but you found some solace in some of the granite there.
Yeah, there's a section when you cross Scarp Road where it was all burnt from a prescribed burn, but there was nice granite outcrops through there, so that kind of gave me a bit of something to hold on to through the charred remains of the forest.
Yeah, the some of the burns that went through there were a bit hot. There's prescribed burns, and then there's if we're talking about, the Munda Biddi is a Noongar name, and the way they burn is very sort of after the first rain of the season, so everything's dry, but it's after the first rain, and they burn just the leaf litter and stuff, and just give everything a sniff of the ash, and it sort of makes them sort of rejuvenate well and breed well through when they get the rain, and they flower better and all that sort of thing. But some of those burns were a bit hot over the last few years, and it's not something you can really control through the areas. It's called a controlled burn, but it's pretty wild. It's by control they mean because they nearly control burned me on the Bibbulmun. So they basically just bomb it from a helicopter and make sure no one's in there. And then just keep it contained to an area on a day where there's not going to be too much wind.
It is a bit sad when you see photos and it's just the canopy is just dry.
Yeah.
And you think, well, how is this going to actually grow back and survive? It's just going to get hotter and hotter and more fuel load. So, I mean, it's one of those issues that's a bit sensitive in WA.
Yeah, they're getting on top of it. It hasn't gotten to a to a dense point, whereas like over east where it was a tinderbox, but because I know there's a couple of Indigenous fellas in the Serpentine Jarrahdale. Is it calm or is it deep, or I don't know, it's always changing. And they really, really like to get in there and do a pretty proper job because they know they've got to keep going every year. People complain about smoke, but look, it's, you can rewash your clothes if they smell a bit, but, it's better than rebuilding a house if it burns down.
So kind of going through the granites, get to a pine plantation, which is not a super well organized pine plantation, is that right?
It sort of had escaped the boundaries.
Yeah.
But there was a nice fun descent after that, which I enjoyed.
Oh yeah, that's an old plantation, is it? Those like big pine trees, wasn't it?
Quite big pines, yeah.
But some of those pine forests, like you can't see past the first tree, they get super dense. Apparently that's where the pigs like to sort of just hang around in there.
Right.
Good cover.
Yeah.
And this is where you had your accident, or one of many accidents, on scraped your knee.
Not there, but it was after. So I climbed up the hill,
Yeah.
and then coming down to North Dwellingup.
Okay.
So first of all, it was raining a lot, and I had forgot to wear my riding gloves.
So you get super cold hands and
I was getting no grip on and so because I was feeling confident and I was going I went really fast down the sealed bit of Scarp Road coming to the dam, and then it sort of turns off to the left and goes on a narrow single track, and there was a bit of rock along the trail, and I hit the rock and my hands just slipped off the handlebars, and I just fell forward and scraped my knee again.
not trying hard enough if you don't. But hey, that's what it's about, eh? Like, we all come off, and it's great. If you don't come off, not trying hard enough.
I've gotten adept at patching myself up on the side of the road.
And some people actually really like seeing footage, so always get the camera going. It's even if you're on your deathbed, just keep the camera rolling, because people really like to see how you get out of it.
Yeah.
Patching yourself up. I don't think I had too many major injuries through that part. No, I was just really sore ass, and it's not something you can just patch up. You just gotta put a mental patch on it, and just could be worse.
Yeah. Hop out of the saddle every.
And just have a stretch and.
So coming up to North Dwellingup Dam is actually quite a pretty spot for a man-made structure. Like, you've got the dam wall that you're allowed to ride on with that kind of, I don't know, Soviet style, whatever it is, gauging station, and then the actual spillway. This looks like it's carved out of the granite. Looks like a really nice spot.
And then you're looking out over the valley, and just so happened the sun was sort of coming down as I was riding through there, giving it some really nice light. And I mean, not setting, but coming out of the center of the sky, but looking out over those water, those massive reservoirs, and it's like 100 years ago they weren't there, and it was just a valley. You would have been going back down a hill, but it's nice to be able to see that and know that we're okay. We've got enough water for everyone for a while. I think that's just an agricultural reservoir, that one, that goes down towards all your Pinjarra and Harvey and that bit of farmland there. But yeah, beautiful. Good marron in there. I don't think you're allowed to catch them, but sometimes you can just see them sort of coming up towards the edges.
Right.
Just teasing you.
Yeah.
Because you've actually hiked in this area on an off-track.
Yeah, there's a walk GPS walk, and the area downstream of the dam is some of the nicest hiking in the Perth area. There's a waterfall, and there's a section where there's all these cascades, and you're looking at this bluff and an eagle's nest, and absolutely spectacular. So that's definitely something if people want to hike.
Oh, beautiful for a day drive. Well, I mean, you'll get there in an hour if you're in Perth Metro. If you're north of the river, just bring your passport.
Not anymore. You
North
won't
and
get
south of
it
the river. Banter. But, just day hike, picnic, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. I won't discriminate.
And the forestry here all the way up to Dandalup campsite is actually really, really nice, isn't it? Nice single trail.
Yeah,
Beautiful
because
Jarrah.
you would have been through there, not that long ago, and when I went through there, I noticed that if they have done a prescribed burn through here in the recent past, it's definitely been a cool burn because none of the trees are charred. Everything just looks nice, and it was just beautiful riding into camp. And the campsite is outstanding.
Oh, you
Dandalup.
mean the hut, Dandalup hut?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's looking out over that valley, and then the sun setting and the birds just let you know how good it is. Like they're just talking about it. I remember when I got to camp there, and I think I just dropped my stuff and got the camera going to get that sunset and the birds, and the camera didn't do it justice. Never does.
And how was it staying there overnight? Because I've never stayed there.
The mosquitoes were
overnight.
bad there.
Okay.
Which is strange because it's 2/3 up the hill, so it's well out of the valley. But I just think it's a great breeding ground when you've got maybe some of the taps will drip a little bit, but actually the water, I didn't see any wrigglers in there, any larvae, but it's all pretty good along there. And even with the tanks, if one's empty, someone reports it, they'll send the ranger out there with a 1,000-litre water tank. He'll pump it in. They want to look after you because otherwise you hear about it, people talk, they get out. So that one, when I got there, I thought they must have had a hell of a job trying to level that place. It's mostly granite. The tent sites, I mean, try hammering a peg in there. I don't know how you'll go. But, yeah, nice spot.
So moving on, Donovan, you had to come back here because they were doing a prescribed burn, and it was all burnt Jarrah, sort of near there.
Yeah.
How was it for you, Jake? Because you did it last year, would have been before the burns.
Yeah, no. It was all looking great. The canopy was good. Yeah, I was still putting sunscreen on because the sun was coming out, but and I might as well be albino. But follows a couple of power lines and stuff after that, so you go back up a bit of a hill out from the spur trail that goes into that hut and go through some pretty, what looks like virgin Jarrah forest for a bit. And the trail is good, some nice windy sections. And then it goes down a hill towards that winding road that goes from Jarrah up to Dwellingup. Yeah, that was gorgeous. And you come down the hill and then there's some pine forest, I think, and power line tracks. It crosses a few of them.
Yeah, I think it goes along the power lines.
That's
quite
right.
a few times.
Yes, and yeah, that's great through there. There was a bit of parrot bush, which they'd probably, when that gets too out of whack, that's when they do a burn. It's like the parrot bush, when that starts getting pretty dense, apparently that's when it's time to burn. I don't know too much about it, but the Noongar will confirm it. You probably speak to Noel Nanup. He's an elder and he works at ECU.
Yeah, I've heard
yeah,
of him,
Noel Nanup. So you could speak to him if you can get hold of him, and he'll tell you what needs burning and what doesn't. It's fantastic. I've never met him. I'd love to meet him. But yeah, that parrot bush apparently is a good sign that prepare to have a good burn off, because it goes up real quick anyway. So if it gets out of control, a lightning strike will send it going.
You certainly don't want to be riding through parrot bush.
Yeah, no. But then you sort of get to that little creek just after the power lines, and that's the Marrinup camp area.
Yeah.
And then the rain came. and it's such a rocky area, I couldn't hammer in my tent pegs. So it's good to, if you're sort of into tenting and stuff, is to find a tent that
you don't need
where pegs aren't necessary. Yeah, where you can just set up the poles and it stays up by itself. But so I just sat in the pit dunny for a bit before I started valuing being out in the rain over being in the pit dunny, because they're not great.
No,
especially the one there. Yeah, because it's when they get pretty close to full. I don't know, the bacteria up high don't do as well as they do down low. So it's like the longer the drop, the better the bacteria do their job. And then if you get sort of caravanners and stuff go in there, and a lot of them, if they don't know, they're pretty well signposted these days, but they go in there and they think, oh, maybe I should tip some of my caravan stuff down there to make it smell nice. but that kills all bacteria. So that's bad. So I got out of there. I went into the power camp, and
how long is that? Is the ride into the prisoner of war camp, and how long is it then to do the
So from the campsite there, there's a road that basically follows and crosses the creek. Might even cross a couple of them. Yeah, I'd say a couple hundred meters. Yeah, maybe 500-600 meters, something like that. And you rock up to it, and it's great. I mean, you can imagine. I mean, I've got to try a bit hard to imagine, but there was like 500 people there once, and all speaking, a bit of Italian, bit of German, and bit of Aussie. Some might call it English, but I don't know. It depends which school you go to. I went to Byford Primary, so we sort of spoke a little bit. It's all in the back of the throat. Trying to sound tough, even as kids. But no, getting to Marrinup was that's that history I'm about. I'm all about finding out the stories. The mountain bike was just the vessel that was going to take me along to learn these stories. But Marrinup's a fascinating spot. Get there, have a look at it. See any rubbish, pick it up. But they actually spent a bit of money on about 20 years ago, and then all the signs that tell you the history, they've now faded. But I think it's just about time that it's going to get
redone.
Because it's a gorgeous spot. And the mine came right up. I think it was Huntley. The south side of Huntley had sort of come right up, and then they realised, oh, hold on, there's history here. And you can just see where the mine stopped dead in its tracks, and they preserved this bit, and the mine went right around it. So you've got regrowth forest right around this prisoner of war camp. So they probably mined that in sort of the 70s, 80s. And so you're getting all these weird blue gums and stuff. This was before the regrowth got better, where they now take the topsoil and the seeds from all those trees that they get in there, and then they take care of all that, do the mining, put the topsoil back, and stuff grows there again. Because before that, they had to bring in South Australian blue gums and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting through there because they've got all these eucalypts, but they're different plantings of different types of eucalypts.
So you're seeing things, okay, so I see Australian forest, and then you get these little patches of blue and grey, and it's like, unless it's a wandu, it's probably a grey gum, which grows fast here, because we get rain here. It doesn't get that much rain in South Australia.
Yeah.
But so they found that worked, and before they knew what they know now about, our rehabilitation stuff is like world class in mining now. But yeah, around Marrinup, there's that bit of old growth that you get from sort of the 60s and stuff, where they were just like, okay, we'll put some more trees there. It was usually pine, and then they were like, let's try and get something Australian. And then they did that with the grey gums from over east and stuff, and the blue gums. And now they're, okay, let's get this back the way we found it. And sort of in the last 10, 20 years, they've done some great stuff through there. So I take my hat off to them, and so they should, but it's pretty cool to be able to see things be put back so close. And then apparently the amount of Italian people who moved out here after the war was because family members spent time at the prisoner of war camp in Marrinup. And when they were sent back to Italy, and Italy had been destroyed, they copped it rough. So a lot of people came back out with their families as refugees.
Yeah, you said that in the last pod, that Balmoral as well.
Yeah.
They resettled in that area because they liked the bush so much.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense.
It's and look, who can't fall in love with the Australian bush when you spend time in civilization, which is so much the same, and then you get out to the bush and it gives you a breath of fresh air and tells you, look, I've got you, it's all right.
I made the mistake because I should have gone to prisoner of war camp, because I went to Marrinup Falls, which was a foolish
which is
decision.
not on the actual
I didn't
Munda
go
Biddi.
there. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so how much of a
Where is
diversion
that?
is
It's
that?
a hugely long diversion compared to 500 meters.
Oh, yeah.
It just the road just keeps going. And And this is something that I think that they could do a bit better, because as you were saying, you know, like it's a vessel more than the Bibbleman, where I feel like you stay on the track and you go from point A to point B. On a bike, you're more likely to go and look at things that are nearby.
Spur trails and
And I think that there was a sign to the Prisoner of War camp in Marinup Falls, and I just wish that they would have the kilometre information there, so you'd see it and you can make a decision about, oh, this is a side trip.
Give you some side quests.
Yeah. And this is 4Ks, this is how long it'll take. Cool, I'll do it. That would be really handy so that people can make a decision.
Actually, it'd be fantastic for people that maybe don't have 4 weeks, or if they just want to get out there for a weekend and spend a weekend between 1 or 2 huts, and you could do all the spur trails or side quests, you know?
Yeah.
Have a little black cat with in a gold ring sitting at the corner and saying, hey, I've got a job for you, come down here. But yeah, and they could say, hey, you can go down here and this is this journey and this is what you can learn, and just people love absorbing more information if we can give it to them. But I think the Munda Biddi Foundation is doing a great job, but it's called the Munda Biddi, which is a Noongar thing, and then you can go from there and try and find out more about the land. And if you do so, you're finding out the names of things. Like the fact is they're Noongar names, and so they've got the names from the Noongar people to say, here, let's start teaching more about the land, you know, and it's fascinating the amount that could be done. Bridges could be crossed, bridges could be made. It'd be fantastic.
Your trip into Marringup wasn't really worth it though, was it?
No, it was a waste of time because the waterfalls weren't flowing. But I mean, it was a nice little side trip in terms of a walk. But I would probably have preferred to go to the Prisoner of War camp, given.
Well, see, I want to see these falls that I didn't know about, especially in the wet. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think wait till September is what I was told.
Okay, yeah.
I thought, well, it rained a lot. Maybe it is flowing, but it wasn't.
Yeah, because when would I think I left in August or September.
So I think you might have been able to see it.
But the wildflowers would have been out, the rapids would have been flowing. So it's a good time, spring.
Yeah, I sort of expected to see more people out there that time of year, but the season, I think, for the Munda Biddi end to end is a more narrow season because it was cold. People would like it to warm up a bit, I think. But riding in the wet is awesome.
It is. It's good fun. It's type 2 fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a type 2 fun, yeah.
So you got to Dwellingup. It was dark when you got there because you kind of hung around in the rain. What does the track look like in the daylight? It's
actually quite nice coming into town. I think given that Dwellingup, when it would have been logged, was a long time ago, the trees have had time to regrow, so they look kind of nice. And it's a nicer journey into town than I expected, because I think where the Bibbleman comes in is much more, had their big fires through the 60s through there. And they've got like blue gums there as well, so it's not quite natural looking. Whereas this is a much more natural looking way into town.
Because it sort of goes through that little bit of reserve that's behind people's houses,
yeah,
isn't it? So
you see the houses and you think, oh, I'm going, and then you go off a little bit more, and then you're in town.
And I thought, oh, that's nice, and there's some light, but it was dark, and like I couldn't see puddles as I was going through them, but I still got there fast. But that would have been nice to take some time, but rain does make you ride faster, I think, or at least you feel like like it is.
Certainly cool down a lot quicker.
Yep.
And Dwellingup, I mean, we've discussed this on the bib, but really cool town. You got a nice pub, got the Blue Wren Cafe.
Great trail town. They're very well organised.
And the new trail centres going in. They really want to be a hub to try and attract people, mountain bikers and hikers. So
and I think it's
motorbikes as well.
I think it's money well spent, and I hear they've spent tens of millions on the Darling Range from Pemberton north to about Dwellingup for mountain bikers, which I think is fantastic because they're going there, whether you set it up for them or not. So this is a way to keep people safe and generate a bit of revenue and be like, hey, look, if you come into the cafe on a mountain bike, you get a discount or something. I don't know, People can make plans and be like, oh, well, let's go for a ride and then go to the cafe and get people out of the house and
maybe stay the weekend, not necessarily at the campsites, but B&Bs, and it's going to be a thriving industry down there. I reckon.
Some fantastic history in Dwellingup as well. The museum is fantastic. I mean, most of it's about the fire in the 60s, but then there's a little model about the Marinup power camp. It's like a little, what do you call it when there's a table and there's heaps of little houses on it?
Diorama?
Diorama, that's the one, yeah. I'm a simple bloke. But, Dwellingup, I've always got time for it. Even in the summer, you go to the Murray River section there, which, a little different when they cleared out all those pine trees now. You go there, it's looking a little bare, but things grow back. It'd be nice to see if they don't put pines back there and actually maybe have a go at some proper rehabilitation. That'd be cool. It would obviously take a lot longer, but, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly. All right, so Jarrahdale to Dwellingup. Fairly nice section in places. Lots of hills, lots of pea gravel, but acceptable cycling on the Munda Biddi.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like the most exciting town-to-town section, but it's not bad.
Yeah,
and,
it has its moments.
Yeah, it has its moments.
All right, well, thanks very much, Jake, for coming in and providing your insight.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
It's been fantastic.
Nice to find some blokes that are passionate about the same thing. It's good.
Yeah.
And for you listeners, if you want to see some more trail sort of stuff or some more off-road stuff, get some knowledge, you can head over to Intents Offroad or our _back_sound on the Instagram.
Yeah, we'll post links to that because you've got your Billman series and your Munda Biddi series, along with plenty of four-wheel driving
that
videos
sort of stuff
as well.
Yeah. And then Outback Sound is sort of going into my passion of sound and audio, and trying to get some nice sounds out of the country as well. And it's not hard to find; it's just hard to record.
Yeah,
good. Awesome, thanks, guys.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode or any other episode of Real Trail Talk, then please rate us on whatever platform you're currently listening to us on. Ratings really help for us to reach an audience and for people who maybe are looking to learn about the outdoors in Western Australia and Australia in general. If you had any questions or any suggestions for future episodes, you can email us at realtrailtalk@gmail.com, or you can contact us through our social media channels. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.